So our next speaker is Eldert. Now, I think it's true, Eldert, that you and I first met fairly recently when we were both moderators on an event, right? So it's my absolute pleasure to see your submission in the call for speakers for this event because I saw you during that one too. So some really great content, and I'm really looking forward to this one. But I must confess, I did have to Google chatups, but I'm going to let you explain what it is rather than me. It's just one, I was like, did he make that up or is that a thing? So looking forward to this one particularly. I'm going to hand straight over to you, Elder. I'll let you introduce yourself. Over to you.
Thank you. So yes, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I'm very happy to be here. I always enjoy these kind of events, so very happy that I can be part of this. So yes, a little bit about myself. So I'm Eldert Grootenboer. I come from the Netherlands, where I work at a company called Motion 10. So in Motion 10, we basically work with everything Microsoft. So myself, I'm a tech lead on the Azure and integration team. So we focus mostly, as the name says, on all the stuff around Azure. But we also have like teams on Power Platform, which I also do a lot with. We work on data analytics, basically everything in Microsoft and mostly cloud. I'm also an Azure MVP, so I love working with the community, which of course is why I'm here today. I do also a lot of speaking, blogging, stuff like that. And if you have any questions or any remarks, you can always contact me on Twitter. So let me know if there's anything that you want to say. And with that, let's go to chatups, because actually, indeed, it was not something that I just made up. It's actually a term that has been around for quite a while. And what chatups is about conversation-driven development. So talking to someone, so talking to a bot in this case. So in a chat room where you can type commands to a chatbot, and then the chatbot executes scripts, plugins, and other kind of things. And through this, you can do things like code deployments, respond to events, notify team members, and all those kind of things. So chatups have been around for a while, and of course, over the years, it has been growing more. It has become more easy to access. And today, we are going to see how we can actually implement chatups using the Power Platform. So what is chatups? Chatups is all about that conversation-driven collaboration. So really talking to a chatbot, the chatbot responding back, and actually having a conversation going on with the chatbot. So in earlier days, it would be more like I would tell a command and it would do something. But these days, you can actually like have whole conversations with our chatbots in just normal human-like language. So we can take actions. So for example, what we'll be saying today is, for example, if I want to create a ticket in our Azure DevOps environment, I can actually talk to the chatbot. He will ask me some questions. I react to those questions. I can take some actions. And in the end, the chatbot will actually take this action for me and makes it much easier for me to actually just do this without having to know about all different systems. And chatups is really an evolution of DevOps. So chatups is really about all those things that we have in DevOps. So the whole life cycle of planning, implementing, deploying, monitoring, and coming back to like with new results. That whole life cycle, but then through chat. So that is what chatups is. And so why would we want to use this? Well, first of all, it provides a much simpler UI because you can just work, for example, with our teams in this case. So we just use Teams as our UI instead of having to go to all the different applications and all the different systems. It allows for easy automation. So it actually allows us to say, okay, I want to, what we're going to say later on as well, actually have a flow there. So if I created a ticket, I also want to create a branch in my GitHub, for example. So that complete flow, I can just completely automate. And then as a user, I only have to do the one thing. And that complete flow will actually use this for me and be completely automated. And it provides visibility as well. So it actually provides visibility into what's happening in our environment because everyone is working in the same Teams environment. So we all know what are the others doing and what are they working on. And of course, we are going to implement this using the Microsoft Power Platform. So I'm going to have a very quick introduction on the Power Platform. I think everyone here knows it, so I'm not going to go into this too much. Basically, we have Power BI for our business analytics, Power Apps for our low-code application development, Power Automate for our low-code process automation, and of course, Power Virtual Agents to actually implement those virtual agents to actually implement our bot. And so how are we going to use the Power Platform to actually empower our chatups? So first of all, let me check. Oh, 1 second, my PowerPoint is crashing, I think. So let me just try to restart this. So always nice when PowerPoint crashes. So give me 1 second, I will restart it and then we can continue. But so basically we will be using PowerVillage agents to actually do our conversation with our chatbot. So that PowerVillage agent will actually be where our whole logic lives, like of that chatups environment. Okay, 1 second, just let me move my screen around. And let me actually go to the right slide. So we are over here. There we go. So PowerVillage agents actually allows us to interact in a human language with our chatbot, and we can actually just have a conversation going on. So we don't need to know which commands we have to execute. We can just actually say what we want to do, and the chatbot will actually understand, okay, so this is what you're trying to do. Here are the questions you need to do for this. We use Power Automate to automate our processes. So we can actually create the whole process, call out to different systems, bring back information, and bring it back to the user. We are going to use data first to actually store our data. So we are going to use data about incident management, about who's the owner of certain resources. So we are going to use data first for this. We are, of course, going to react to our environment. So once again, with Power Automate, we can actually react to our environment, and we can actually take actions when something happens in our environment and bring these actions back to our users. And we get better insights using Power BI and Power Apps, where we can actually drill into our data, visualize our data, and use our data. And with that, we are going to do some demos, because I think chatups is best explained actually through demos. So the first one is about task management. So what we are going to do is, everyone here probably has done like Agile, where you have your post-it notes. There might be physical post-it notes that you put on a board, or what we often see in Motion is we use Azure DevOps for this, where we have our boards, where we can just create the tasks, move our tasks around, assign them to different people, and actually monitor how are we working and what is everyone working on. And so how can chatups help on this? So first of all, it actually allows you to create tickets, assign tickets, be notified when a ticket has been created. So chatups will have this one entry point to actually work with all your tickets. Now, like I said, we are actually also going to do a whole process on this. So if we create a ticket, we also are going to set up our Git environment, so that our developer can actually just go to his task and immediately can just click on the link to his Git environment, and he will have a place where he can do his work. So this, of course, makes sure that our developers actually can focus on important stuff, so actually implementing our features, instead of doing all that maintenance around it. So when our developer has done his task, we will create a pull request, and we will actually get a notification back so that our lead developer or manager can actually say, okay, this is okay, let's deploy this. And of course, all of this is being done with conversations, so anyone can see like, okay, which tickets are being created, what our pull requests are open. So we can actually monitor this over our different environments. So let's go to the demo. And I'm going to start with our front end, so to say, so where our users are working in. So what I'm going to do is, in my Teams environment, I'm going to create to ask for my open tickets, my open tasks. Zoom in a little bit. There we go. So I'm just going to say, please get me my task, and now my chatbot, as you can see, will actually come back to me like, okay, how many tasks would you like to retrieve? So let's do the top 10. So as a developer or as a manager, I might just want to see, okay, which tasks are currently open and what should I be working on? So I can now see, okay, so these are the top 10 tasks that I can now decide to either click on one of these and actually do work on it. Or in this case, I'm actually going to say, well, I need to create a new task because we have some new implementation to do. So I'm going to say, please create a new work item. Once again, I don't have to leave my environment. I'm just working all in Teams. So my user actually doesn't have to leave this. I can now say, okay, what type of work items? I'm going to create a task in this case. It will come back to me, okay, please provide some information. So let's just use a date for this. I can easily identify it later on. What is the description? So update the README file, for example. The file. And now it's actually going to create this in Azure DevOps. So as you can see, it's now been created, and so now I could assign it and stuff like that. Now, for my developer now knows, so okay, my developer would probably get a notification at some point like, hey, you have been assigned a task. And so he might be saying, okay, I'm going to go to my the DevOps environment, and I'm going to open this ticket. So he's going to open his task, and he sees, okay, so I have to update the README file. He already sees like, okay, I have a branch over here, so apparently I can now just start working. I don't have to go to GitHub, create a branch, stuff like that. It's already created for me. So if I click on this branch, it will open up my GitHub environment, and indeed I have a branch over here for my this specific task. I can then do my actual work, so I can now say, okay, let's update this README file. Let's just update this. And just say, okay, and it's awesome, like just a small change. Of course, in real life, this would probably not be my complete task, but just for the demo. But of course, in real life, I would probably do some implementation. I would do some of my tests and all this kind of stuff. At some point, I'm like, okay, this is fine. I'm now happy with this. So I'm going to create a pull request. So I'm going to create a pull request. I'm just going to say, yes, please create one. README file updated. I'm going to create a pull request. And of course, now that pull request has been created, it actually has to go to my lead developer or to my manager, or someone has to actually check my code. What did I do? And is this actually what I want? Now, my manager will actually get this once again in my Teams environment. Because of course, we are using chatups. So this is where my manager or my lead developer will probably just get all the notifications of what's happening. As you can see, I just can see, okay, there's different notifications here. And I just got notification, hey, there's been a pull request that has been created. Can you have a look at this? Now I can view it, so I can actually see, okay, what did you do? So I can now check, okay, what was changed? What did you adjust? And at some point I might say, okay, this is looking good. So I could reject it if it's not okay. But in this case, I'm saying, okay, this is good. So let's merge this. I'm going to say, okay. And at this point, it will actually merge my pull request and close it. So if I go over here, so if I go to my branch or my pull request, I see that it has been merged. And I can now just say, okay, delete this branch because I don't need this branch anymore. So this is the first part about, okay, so how can we actually work with those tasks, and how can we actually make this life a bit easier already? This is of course just a small thing like these tasks, but already like we have different clients that actually have to implement this. And it just makes the whole flow a lot easier because you don't have to go to different systems, but you just have your one environment and you can just do your work there. Now, the next one is already a bit more interesting, I think. Because like I said, this was a simple one, like just as an introduction, okay, what can you do with chatups? But the next one will actually give much more power to our employees. So what we are going to do, we are going to create a self-service resource deployment. And so, like I said, I work a lot with Azure at my clients. And so whenever we go to clients, like depending on how their organization is, but sometimes you have these organizations that are still like kind of not that agile, so to say. So if you want some hardware or you want to have a service, you might say, okay, I want to, for example, have a virtual machine. So now in some cases, you just get access to the environment and you can create everything yourself. Sometimes you get access to maybe a resource group in Azure and you can create stuff in there. But I've also have several clients where you actually have to go to the operations team and actually request, for example, I want to have a VM and this is configuration. And always, of course, always you get to put some stuff in because it goes to tickets. They come back to you like, okay, we need this and this information. And if you're lucky, it will take like a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days. If you're unlucky, and I've had those clients as well, where they are still like very old school and let's go to approval changes and stuff like that. It can actually take up to weeks to actually get your hardware and for them to actually create your hardware or your virtual machine and stuff like that. So what we are going to do, we are going to use chatups to actually empower our users to just create those services themselves. So without having to go to an operations team and having to provide all that information that they don't know about in front, so they always get this, we're actually going to use chatups to make it much easier. So we are going to make sure that those resources are much easier and much quicker to allocate. Because now they can just go to their Teams environment. They will just say, what do we want to create? They get some questions. They fill this out and they always fill out the right answers because it's just our questions in this case. And immediately the resource is being created. So this gives much more transparency around resource allocation because I can immediately see which resources can I create, what information do you need, and I can just create this myself as a user. Now, of course, we are placing user in control, but we still want to maintain governance. And so what we actually do is we have templates in place, so ARM templates, where we actually have all the best practices for those services, and these are maintained by our operations team. So our operations team actually will still build our templates and make sure that everything is according to best practices, so the right security is there, everything is on governance, and then those templates are being used when we create this resource. And so this allows both me as a user, me as a developer, and my operations team to actually spend time on the important tasks. Instead of having to create tickets, wait for someone to pick it up, someone actually like manually, maybe even like creating resources and all that kind of stuff. Now we want to spend our time on the important tasks and not on those trivial things. So let's have a look at this demo. So once again, we are going to go to my front end. And actually, I forgot something just a moment ago, so actually I'll show you more. But what we are going to do is we are actually going to go to my front end and say, let's see, over here, there we go. So I'm going to say, see more, I'm going to create a resource. Now in this case, like I said, I will immediately get like information around, okay, what kind of resource do you want to create? So I'm going to create a storage account in this case, we are going to submit this. And I will get some questions around, okay, what is the name of the storage account? Once again, we are just going to use a date, so it's easy to recognize. We are going to submit this. And it will come back to me like, okay, thank you for your input. We are going to come back to you. So what happens now is actually my manager will get a request like, okay, someone wants to create a resource. This is the type of resource, the name, he wants to create a storage account. Is this okay? So I can now respond yes or no. I'm just going to respond yes in this case. I could, of course, also have sent this to my team's environment. In this case, I'm using a mail just to show you some different options that you have here. So it has now been approved, and we are now going to provision this. And while this is provisioning, we're actually going to look at the backend of this. And so I did not show you the backend like in the previous session, so as just a previous demo, so have a quick look. So in the previous one, I actually have my chatbot over here. I'm using Power Virtual Agents for this, and as you can see, just ask some questions. It calls out to Power Automate. My Power Automate will then run. It will get some information, in this case from my Azure DevOps environment. As you can see, this is all low code. Like I don't have to know how to interact with Azure DevOps. I can just like use out of the box the actions for this. It's just all configuration, and so it's much easier for me to actually do this. So this was for the first demo. We are now working on the second demo. So actually, let's go over to that one. Not this one, this one. So in this case, I'm going to check my, let's see, where is this? This one. So, 1 second for it to load. Okay, so what we did, like I did like the drop down, I clicked on the message. So what we got a question like, okay, what kind of resource do you want to create? And this is, so for a select message, so that is, in this case, create Azure resource. It will give this pop-up saying, okay, what type of resource would you like to create? As you can see, there's drop down, and what I like about these adaptive cards is they're really easy to create, but you can create some very nice UI around this. By just dragging and dropping stuff on this, I could choice sets, I could put toggles in here, and it's just very easy to actually create a nice UI with this and to actually build this. Now, in this case, I would got like that pop-up to like what kind of resource do you want to create. I'm initializing some variables, but when I selected a specific resource, in this case a storage account, it actually set some definition, some parameters with me. Because first of all, the next thing I did like was give this context like, okay, if you want to create a storage account, I need to have the name and the container name. And with this, we are using a adaptive card. And of course, for a storage account, I need my name on storage account and my name of the container. But for example, if I was working with a virtual machine, I would need something completely different because I might need to have information about which IP range should this be in, which VNet should this be on, which operating system should this have, all those kind of questions. And for database, it would be another one again, like do you want a MySQL or MS SQL, or what do you want? So depending on what type of storage or what type of resource I'm going to create, I need a different adaptive card. Also, I'm going to use an ARM template later on, so I actually also have to start to say which ARM template I'm going to use. Now, when I got this created, I can then actually get it input. So I'm shown that card definition. And this is where I actually filled in like, okay, this is my storage account name and my container name. We are going to do another check, like which resource are we creating? Because to get back that input, I actually have to parse my input from my debit card. So I get the input from my response, and I'm going to create an approval saying, okay, we are going to create a storage account. This is the name and this is the container name, and actually send that email to my manager in this case. And finally, we are going to check, okay, so did my manager approve this? If not, I would just have got a reject message. In this case, of course, we did approve it. So we are going to create a resource group. We are going to actually use this resource group to actually deploy my resources in. I'm sending some text so I can actually get this later on. I'm going to post that deployment message. So actually, like I'm saying, okay, we are going to deploy this now. So please hang on. And because this can take a couple of minutes, because the actual deployment, normally like a storage account is okay. Storage account is normally like maybe a minute, 2 minutes. But like a virtual machine can actually take like 30 minutes or something like that, if you're depending on what type of virtual machine you're deploying. But once it's done, it will actually give back my message saying, okay, your resource has been deployed. So once again, we are just using out-of-the-box connectors. We are not doing any code. We are just using out-of-the-box connectors and just configuration. So in this case, I'm using my ARM template that I said earlier on. I'm getting those variables in here. And once it's done, I get my message back saying, okay, it's been deployed. So if we go back over here, I actually got the message saying, hey, your deployment has been finished. Your resources are available. You can find them here. And in this case, it's this one. So from the 7th, as you can see. So what I actually do, so in my ARM template, let me just show you. Because, for example, storage accounts have to have a unique name globally. So I cannot have the same storage account name as someone else. So what I do, if in my ARM template, I do stuff like I create a unique string. So that's all those random letters that you saw on the end. What I do more in this as well. Like I said, we are working on the governance. So my operations team actually said, okay, we are going to only support HTTPS traffic. We want to encrypt our file and blob services. So as a user, I don't need to know about this. So this means that no matter what, when I create a storage account, it will always have those right properties. Unlike if as a developer, I would just get like a resource group and just was told, okay, create your own storage account. I might not do this. Like I might say, okay, I'm just going to create a storage account with the default values and be done. So by actually using this, so by using an ARM template that actually being deployed to my chatups, I'm sure that all my best practices for my company are applied. And my operations team actually knows like when this goes in production, it is actually something that we can support. And for me, it's just much easier because I can just say which resource, okay, these are the things I need to fill out and I'm done. So as you can see, this is already much easier than actually have to create this myself. And just to show you that over here, so just to show you, like if I go over here to my containers, I will actually see that yes, there is a container in here. So it has created everything and everything is now available to me. So with that, let's go back to my slides. Because we are now going to know another one. So the third demo, and also the last demo, by the way. Well, this third demo, what we are actually going to do here is work with incident management. And so I think everyone knows, like, no matter how good of a developer you are, you'll always have an incident at some point. It might be because there's a bug in your application. It might be just because the network goes down, or DNS goes down, or Azure AD has issues. At some point, there will be incidents. And I've been in many different companies, and some companies have very nice incident control. Other companies look a little bit like this. So where everyone is, as soon as the incident happens, like there's a bit of panic. Now, maybe not as bad as here, but there will definitely be some panic, like, okay, who's the owner of this resource? Who is on standby? Who can actually look into this? Who knows stuff about this specific type of resource? What should you actually do? Like, which steps should we take? Has this happened before? So all those kind of questions that you don't really want to think about at the moment, because at the moment you actually want to concentrate on just solving this. So with chatups, we can actually say we are going to faster acknowledge and our alarms and incidents by bringing them into an environment where all this is already happening. And we're actually going to make call out to specific people, like as the resource owner, you should be notified when your resource goes down. So we are going to bring an incident team together, like we are actually going to set up a team in our Teams environment, have all the people from that incident together. So that will be the resource owners, that will be like the specialists for a specific resource, that might be the on standby duty people, maybe someone that has like direct lines to specific vendors. So we are all going to bring them together in a team out and of course automate it. And this is really what's about, that automation, because of course we can create an incident team also when we don't use chatups. Like I can call people and I can bring people in, but by actually automating this, it means that we are actually focusing on what we want to focus on, which is solving my incident, instead of me having to call to different people, give updates to the organization, and all those kind of things. And finally, we are actually going to capture that data, capture all the data about, okay, what happened, what did we do, what did we fix, capture all the data, and then actually put this into our Dataverse. So the next time this happens, we can actually look this up and see, okay, last time we did this and this and these steps, it was this issue, so now we can do this and this. Let's have a look at incident management. And for this, we are going to start over here on our Logic app. So in my Azure environment, I have a Logic app, and for those that don't know Logic apps is actually what Power Automate is built on top of. And Logic apps, like you'll probably recognize it right away, like it looks like Power Automate. You have all those actions as well. You basically have all the same actions as you would with Power Automate. Logic apps is more for the enterprise, where Power Automate, of course, is more for the users. But in this case, I have a very simple Logic app. I just I receive a HTTP request with one parameter in it called status. And I'm just going to check if status is equal to success, then I'm just going to finish correctly. If it's not equal to success, I will terminate with a failure. Probably not a production Logic app, I would say, but something for my demo. So let's have a look when I trigger this. Let me grab this one. So I'm just going to call out to my Logic app endpoint, and I'm just going to have a status of failed. So if I call this, I get a tool to accept it. And if I go over here and I will have a look at my history, refresh. If I have a look at my history, I will see that indeed it was terminated with a failure. And I can also see here, yes, it failed. Now what will happen now? I have some alerts on this, and this alert will actually trigger whenever a failure happens over the last minute or so. So whenever the total runs failure is greater than 1, it will actually trigger an alert and say, hey, something went wrong. And this alert will then call out to my webhooks, as you can see here. So there's two actions. I come on request bin, but this is the more important one, actually my URL of Power Automate. So this is going to call out to Power Automate, and with Power Automate, we are then going to start our chatups experience, of course. Now this takes about, like I said, this can take a minute or maybe 2 minutes. So I'm actually going to not wait for this to trigger. I will actually trigger this myself. So this is the common alert schema, and this is actually what is being sent out by Azure Monitor. So there's some information in here, like which rule was triggered. There's some information about it was Logic app. There's information about which Logic app it was. So in this case, it's our Logic app implement chatbot I'm using my Power Platform. There's all this information about, okay, what actually went wrong. And so if I now send this to my Power Automate endpoint, it will now trigger like my chatups experience. So if I go over to my Teams environment, so let me just grab this one. In Teams, I will see like, hey, I got a message. So what it did, it was actually looked up like who's the resource owner for this Logic app, which is me in this case. So it went to Dataverse, it got the resource owner, and then it actually sends a message to me as the resource owner. So as you can see here, they actually called out to me like, hey, the resource, this Logic app, you are registered as owner, please let me know what you want to do. I could ignore this when I'm saying like, okay, I know this because we are working on this, so this is expected. I can notify the team, which will send a message to my general channel. But in this case, we are going to create an incident. So we are going to create an incident. We are using the same name again, just so we can recognize it later on. Submit. And now what it will do, it will now start looking up, okay, who's on standby? Who's the resource owners? Things like, okay, do we need any vendors on this? Like it will go out to my Dataverse and check this specific resource, like, okay, who do I need to get in for this? In this environment, I'm the only one here, so it will just get me and my team. But of course, in real life, this will probably bring in like maybe 10 different people all into this team. Now, as you can see, I've got a channel over here. for my incident. So this is actually a channel that's specifically for this incident. And it asked me actually to acknowledge that I'm now starting my investigation. So as long as I don't do this, and at some point I might like trigger some higher up, like I might start calling out to my manager, like, hey, please acknowledge this or something like that. In this case, I'm just going to acknowledge it. And what this is going to do then, like I've now acknowledged this, it's now going to let my organization know, like, okay, we know there's an incident going on, we are working on it. And instead of me as a developer or someone in my team actually have to go out and actually create emails or stuff like that, it is all automated. So everyone in my company now knows there's an incident going on, we are looking into it, and we'll keep you updated. Without me having to go out or getting someone at my desk like, hey, is there something down? Instead, they now know there's something down. So we can now start working on this issue. So we can now start, okay, I'm investigating it. Investigating. So at some point I might say, I found something. And probably it will be DNS. Because it's always DNS. So at this point, I now know, okay, so it's DNS. I now want to let the organization know, like, hey, we actually found something. So what I'm going to do, and I will pause here on this part because I actually want to first show you the backend of this. So what happens in the backend? So let's go over here. So what we are doing is whenever HP, so we are calling this logic app as this Power Automate flow as I just showed you. And this will just expect that common alert schema. So we'll get some information out of there. So we'll get resource, it will get my flow definition. And then going out to data first, actually go to my resource owners and checking, okay, who's the resource owner of this specific resource? So in Dataverse, I've only the one resource in this case, but it actually says, okay, so this is my resource owner, is Eldert Grootenboer at this address. So I get back all my different resource owners, because I could have multiple actually. It's going to look through all of them and it's going to say, okay, we have an incident going on, please let us know what you want to do. And these, of course, as those three different options that we showed earlier. And of course, we created an incident. We could also have done something else. So if we did ignore, it would actually have gone in default, which doesn't do anything. If we would have set notify team, it would actually just have sent a message to my team. But what we did was, of course, create an incident. And create an incident actually does a couple of interesting things. So it creates this channel. So it actually creates a channel for me, as I just showed you, like it will create a channel specifically for this incident. So everyone that is working on this incident can just come to this channel and actually work together over here. It's going to get my mention token, so it's actually going to get my token from the person that I just notified, and it's going to ask for some acknowledgement. And this is what we saw, like please acknowledge, I pressed the acknowledge button, and only at that point we actually continue. So I then notified my team, so I went to my general channel saying, hey, there's an incident going on, if you want to know more, we are in this channel and we are investigating this, etc. And now the really interesting part comes, because now from a Power Automate flow, we are going to create another Power Automate flow. And for this, we are using this workflow definition. So for those that know logic apps, this will be very familiar because this is actually logic apps definition file. And this you can actually get this like if you don't have to like know this whole language by heart, because you can actually just create a logic app or create a flow and just get all your flow definitions from this. So that's actually what I did. Like I created a flow that actually got my flow definitions, and then I can just update this. And so as you will see, like there's some stuff in here, like there's a trigger. I'm not going to explain everything. I will actually show you the flow in a minute. But there's some stuff in here, like okay, what triggers, some actions, stuff like that. So I can actually use these IDs and stuff like that to actually say, okay, in this case, I want to trigger on a message in my specific channel. There's some expressions in here, but as you can see, that's the whole definition of my flow. So this one is for my status update. So whenever I say bank status, it will actually say, okay, I'm going to do something with this. So this is the first one, so status update, and I have another flow that I'm going to create for my archive channel, which we'll say in a minute as well. So let me go over here, and let me just, if you go over here to my flows, and what you will see, I have these two flows over here now. So these have just been created. As you can see, they have been created specifically for my incident. And if I now click on the status update and do edit, So this is the workflow definition that we just saw. So whenever a message is added to this channel, and I look for a specific message, so I'm looking for this bang status. If I do a bang status, it will actually trigger this flow, and it will come back with me with a identifier card saying, okay, please provide some what you want to do, and we'll see this one in a second. And then we'll get results from this identifier card and post this to my general channel. So let's have a look what this looks like. So if I actually, let me just say test so I don't have to wait for a minute. So there we go. So if I now say bang status, it will come back to me like, okay, it should now, there we go, it's running. So it should come back to me with a dev card. And this dev card will then let me know, okay, what do you want to do? So I want to give them a status update. So I can now say, okay, we have identified the issue. So I can now say DNS, always DNS. I can now submit this, and this for me as a developer is really easy because I can just like, I don't have to break my flow, I can just keep working and just very quickly say, okay, I identified the issue, it was DNS, submit, and I'm done. And at this point, it will now go to my general channel. In real life, it might send some emails as well, like to my managers and to our CTO and all those kind of things. But we'll actually like send out a message to my different parties saying, okay, so we have identified the issue. Now, next up, what we are going to do is we are going to, of course, continue. So at some point we fixed it by restarting something. Oh, actually, this should be in the other channel. So let me just do it like here. So I can now say, okay, we fixed it by restarting something. So I can now say, okay, so we fixed it. We are now done. So our incident can now be closed. So what we are going to do is we are going to actually archive everything. And for this, once again, I will just go back over to my flows. And I'm going to my archive channel flow. And in this one, what we are going to do, once again, it has the same kind of command. In this case, it's bang archive. So when I do bang archive in my channel, it will actually start archiving. So it gets all the messages that have been posted. It gets all the messages. It's going to put those into a variable. So it's just going to actually over here. So it's going to just create one big string variable. Of course, I could do this in a different way, but for my demo, this is fine. And then I'm going to just place that complete string variable into my data first. It's then going to delete my channel. So it's actually going to delete this channel over here that we just saw. And it's also going to delete both of those flows that we created. So as you can see, it's actually going to create, to delete my flow for my status update and my archive channel. So once this is done, it will actually just say, okay, everything is done, everything has been deleted, and we have a clean environment again. So once again, let's just do it like this. Go over here, say bang archive. And now this will like take a couple of seconds, and what we will see is that this channel will actually disappear. It will go and get all my messages from it first, and it's now gone. So it actually deleted my channel because my incident is over. We don't need this channel anymore. If I go over here, so and as you can see, my flow has also been deleted. So if I go back to my flows and I do a refresh over here, I will actually see that both of those flows have now been deleted. So my environment is clean again. All of my data has been pushed into my Dataverse. I can actually, so as you will see, I have a lot of the entries here already. And actually what I will just do, like I created Power App on top of this. So let me just resume this. Why are you doing this? 1 second, let me just do it like this. Edit. Sure. Override, just give me. So I created Power App on top of this, so I can actually like search for all my different entries, and I can just work with them. And there we go. So I can now search for my, actually not this one, it was the 0705. So I can immediately see like, okay, I've got this one. I could also, of course, also look for my logic app name or like a specific other type of resource. But in here, I get all my history of what actually happened. So I can see, okay, we were investigating, we found something, it was DNS. And at some point, actually didn't grab that one. So, but it's like, I'm not sure why I didn't grab that last line, but I should also say, okay, we fixed it by restarting. But as you can see, it just grabs all that information and it brings it back to me. So next time I'm actually here, I can now say, okay, so it was DNS last time, we restarted this. So next time this happens, I can probably very easily recreate the issue and fix it much faster than actually have to do it low lookup again. Now, the last part I want to show you is and I forgot to open this one, so let me open now, is also on Dataverse. All the data is also have Power BI dashboard for this. And this allows my managers to actually see, like, okay, when do we have the most incidents, which resources have incidents, all those kind of insights. Now, this is a very easy dashboard that I created, or a very easy graph that I created. I'm not a BI person, so I just like have this one. If you are more into this kind of stuff, like I'm pretty sure you can create like very nice dashboards around which resources had which errors over which time. In this case, I just have a nice overview of, okay, when did we have the most incidents? And so this can give me some insights on my manager, like, okay, so we have most incidents in August, so why was this? Why don't we have any incidents basically in November and December? Like, so we can get some insights, okay, what's happening in our environment. So let's go back to my demo, my slides, because we're almost done. And basically what I showed you today is like how chatups can actually help you, like by giving this nice one interface to just do all your work. Like you can create tickets from Teams. You can actually create resources there. You can handle incidents. And all of this is just done in this one environment. And by using chatups, we are actually automating all the stuff that's behind this. So if I want to create a new task, I can actually automate creating tasks in DevOps, maybe assigning it, creating an issue, creating a branch in Git. I can immediately automate and make sure that my developer can just start working instead of having to do this all by himself. Or for example, when I create a resource, I make sure that I have all the information right away because I just ask for the right fields. I go out, I create I use my ARM template to actually create a resource. And within a minute, I have my resource available to me, and it's just much easier than pushing a ticket in, waiting for my operations team, then coming back at some point, asking for the information. This just makes it so much faster and so much easier to do this. So quick recap on this. First of all, chatups really empowers you. So that automation I was just talking about really empowers you to do more with less. So by just typing in like 1 or 2 commands, I can actually like create resources and all those kind of things. And I don't have to know how to do this myself. Like I can just push this information to my operations team. So they will create the templates, they will do all this stuff. I just say I want to have this resource and it will just create it for me. It's very extensible. So of course, by using Power Platform, we actually use a very extensible platform. And for example, Power Automate, we can actually get in all those details from Azure DevOps, from GitHub, from all those different systems. We can just get it all together and then just make a nice view out of it and push this into my teams to my user. And finally, it's very easy with Power Platform. Anyone can do this, basically what I showed you today. We have been using this with clients. Actually, my clients have been building this themselves. Like we would set up like the base of this and they would just continue on this. And I've seen some very nice examples like where they pretty much just automate all their daily work tasks. And they just like use chatups as a one interface and just use this to actually work with all the different systems and stuff like that. So with that, I would like to say thank you. I hope you enjoyed the session. I definitely enjoyed being here today. If you have any questions, please come on the chat or unmute yourself. If you have questions later on, you can always contact me. My details are here. So with that, I would like to thank you and let's see if there's any questions.
Thank you so much. What a great session. And yes, it is always DNS. Why is that? And kind of love the fact that you said that the Power Platform is a piece of cake. It feels like cake o'clock right now, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I'm sure there are some questions to come. So it's, you know, such a great opportunity to bring all these platforms together, right? So, you know, that integration piece yet again, and that's what's really nice about the whole of Office 365, right? Is that beautiful integration and cross-platform messaging. So, you know, it kind of reminds me of the 145 million daily users that we now have on Teams. You know, it's just insane how much of that, it's not just collaboration now, is it? It's exactly as you're saying. It's the operations of the business. It's now a platform that can extend the speed of delivery of message, of updates, all of those things. And I think that was a really great presentation to show that.
Thank you. Yeah, and like I said, we are actually working with this with clients, and they are like just enabling their users to just get their daily tasks done without having to know like all the different systems. Because a user, like if a user just wants a place to store some files, now in this case I create a storage account. It might also be like a SharePoint site or whatever. But they can now just do it by just saying to the chatbot like, hey, Bill, I want to have a place to store files. And they don't have to know about, okay, how do I create a storage account, or how do I create a SharePoint site? They don't need to know this anymore. They just say, I want this. They get all the information that is needed. And a couple of minutes later, they have their information there.
But again, the integration story, it's low code, right? We don't have to have massively complex back-end systems that are managing, you know, like BizTalk, okay? Back in those days where we had so many business rules backwards and forwards with clashes and conflicts and unreliability. This is something that the business can implement, right?
Exactly. Yeah, actually, I come from a BizTalk background myself. So I actually worked with BizTalk for years. And yes, just seeing where we were then, like if we want to make a small change, it would take like weeks to actually get in production. User could basically do nothing. Like we had the business rule editor, which was meant for users, but I have never seen a user use this because it still was way too complex. Where now with like the Power Platform, we can actually just go to the users, say, okay, if you want to build something, here are the tools, and pretty much anyone can just get started with this. So you really go to from like you need to have developers and pro code and stuff like that to you can just build it yourself, you configure it, and it's all out of the box.
Yeah, I mean, you've put some really nice use case stories there. What have we got, Elizabeth? Less code can lead to a bigger price. Yeah, okay, that's a fair comment. Elizabeth, do you want to come off mute and talk that through?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah. So in some tasks, it probably in the tasks that Eldert showed us today, it is really a great opportunity to like save time and save money in order to implement all of these settings and these chats. But if we are talking about some smaller applications, then probably if you don't spend a lot of time and like a lot of money on the Power Automate, which can cost you like each month in perspective, you will pay more than if you use, for example, out of the box Dynamics actions and plugins. Then probably in a year, I think you will get your cost of implementing that. So it is also should be something in the middle.
Yes, I definitely agree on this. Like I'm an architect myself, so this is actually what I do every day. Like think about what is the best solution for a specific problem. And sometimes this will be like, okay, sometimes we need like something like Power Platform, sometimes we might need Azure. And sometimes you can just say, well, let's just use whatever is built in because it's either just a small thing that we need to do and it doesn't have any integration needed with anything else. Sometimes it's just because of time, like sometimes just like we need something today, we are just going to do a quick implementation. And sometimes it's just like, why would you make something bigger than that you actually need to? Because sometimes you can just do it with out-of-the-box stuff. It really depends on the bigger picture, like what is the bigger picture around your specific solution?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been there, right? Where you're kind of somewhere in the client requirements and you're like, hang on a minute, aren't we defining Dynamics 365 here? You know what I mean? This is not a Power App anymore. So you definitely get to a point where, yeah, all of the stuff has all of the thinking and all the relations and all of that construct has already been done for you in another product. And I completely agree with that. But this is a great conversation piece around, you know, at which point do you hit scale? Yeah, at which point do you are you looking at something that if it takes off so well, they call it success disaster, right? If it takes off so well, is it going to cost you in redevelopment or in a big change and therefore some transition within the business, let alone the licensing cost, etc., to support this as it gets bigger. And that's a great kind of discussion that maybe we should all come back sometime and do a panel discussion on this, because low code versus scale, versus kind of enterprise ambition, where do you sit on the cost curve as you go through the kind of enterprise growth of that and the, the life cycle, if you like, of that.
Definitely. And even like if you look at, for example, I just showed you Logic Apps and Power Automate. Like also there, like I said, Power Automate is actually built on top of Logic Apps. So underwater is actually running Logic Apps, but they serve two different purposes. Like Logic Apps is really about that enterprise scale where you need like complete governance, complete control, versus like Power Automate where you're just like, okay, this is something that the user should be able to do. Like this will probably be more about personal productivity. And if those kind of decisions, and over time, like something can just start as like a personal tool, but become so important that at some point you actually need to push it into an Azure Logic App or something like that. And so it can actually grow over time as well.
And I think the licensing and the way that that is done across the Power Platform means that it always brings itself to a question of growth, right? What if this does get bigger? What if this does get, so that we're going to need a different data source or a different level of engagement with the end users? Where are we headed on a license perspective as more people get involved in the project? And I do think that is something that is often overlooked. I think you're right. You can put something in immediate, low code, solve a problem that you have right now, but it's important to flag up to the business where this might go. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, good point. Anyone else got any questions? Okay. Thank you so much for coming along. Like I say, absolutely delighted to get your session submitted. And that was a really useful session. Really appreciate you coming along and sharing that with us. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun being here today. So thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome.